You're listening to the Business and Life Podcast, where 7 days a week, proven entrepreneurs share their success stories, failures, and give you true value on how you can build a great business and an awesome life. With your host, Mike Olivas.
Business and Life, let's get ready to rock. Today we'll be interviewing Justin Constantine. Justin is the Chief Business Development Officer of JobPath, the most robust veteran employment platform in the country that also now helps people with disabilities and formerly incarcerated people. Justin is a combat veteran from the war in Iraq, also an inspirational speaker, and has given several TED Talks. All right, Justin, welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you for having me. It's a real honor and pleasure to be here with you.
Absolutely. Thank you. So tell our listeners something interesting about yourself and also where you're calling in from today, Justin.
Well, I'm calling in from Woodbridge, New Jersey. I'm from Virginia. Most recently, my wife and I lived in Manhattan, and then we were in England. And I don't want to start this podcast off on a negative note, but the reason we left England and came back was because of a medical diagnosis that we're taking care of right now.
Okay.
So that's why I'm here. And I guess that's something interesting is that I'm in the middle of some change right now. I'm in the middle of overcoming some adversity, which I imagine some of your viewers are too.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Adversity is the name of the business and life game, but also how to overcome it in a positive manner, obviously, is great. So tell us a little bit about justinconstantine.com.
Yeah, that's a seeking business I started back in 2013. I have a background as a lawyer. I practiced with the Marine Corps and the federal government with the Department of Justice and the FBI. But I was shot in the head in Iraq in 2006. And I had a very fortunate recovery, incredibly lucky, had a lot of amazing people around me. And about 2012, 13, a lot of people started asking me to come speak at events. And I like seeking. I was trained as a trial attorney, and so it worked out. I started doing it more and more, and then I decided I wanted to do it full time. So I launched a business in 2013, and I speak to Fortune 500 and 1,000 companies around the country on a weekly basis, pretty much about overcoming adversity and dealing with change.
That's awesome. I love the story. We talk a lot about sometimes on the show that sometimes the mess becomes the message, right?
Yeah.
And it's a rough one to have, and I get it, and I appreciate you sharing that with us, Justin. But I'm assuming that talking in front of an audience is definitely a lot better than being a trial lawyer.
Well, I know everyone in the room likes me, so that's immediately I'm already way above.
I love my trial lawyer, my attorney for my companies, but he's become a friend of mine. He actually was a friend of a friend before. I didn't know, but yeah, I don't think I'd want his job. I'll tell you that. And we've been in some tough positions. So I'm sure you've liked or hopefully you're enjoying your different career path here. And more importantly, you're motivating people, I'm sure, out there, which is exciting. So tell us a little bit about the message you mentioned before that you really try to instill in your audience.
Yeah, I like to stay in my lane. I'm not all things to all people. And so I talk about leadership. I wrote a leadership book a few years ago based on Marine Corps leadership principles that apply, in my mind, to the private sector. Things like leading from the front, taking care of people around you, leading by example, and motivating your team and putting your team first, things like that. So I talk about leadership, overcoming adversity, teamwork, the upside of change. Every business is going through change. And I did a TED Talk a couple years ago about you're stronger than you think you are. So I have a whole section about that as well. And everything I say when I present to audiences, I try to have a business perspective, but also make it resonate on a personal level, because I know everyone in the audience has gone through something challenging or is right now, or they have someone close to them who is. So I make it very personal, but I also keep it very professional.
Yeah. We have a very interesting, very not a great way to put it, in situation right now. As we're speaking, we're talking about, and by the time people listen to this, we hope that it's gone away, which is the coronavirus, right?
Sure.
And we have a lot of businesses, mine included actually, and others that I have spoken with that are in jeopardy. In fact, in jeopardy of possibly shutting down, or after this is done, and mine possibly, and I'll be 100% frank, I have hundreds of thousands of dollars in my national group travel company that are in jeopardy of losing that revenue. And that would be not a make or break, but close. to my 13-year-old national group travel student company where universities are shutting down. What do you tell to people that are listening that are trying to overcome an adversity that they can't control? And I'm sure you talk about this too. What can you control and what can you not control, right? This is something that can't be controlled.
No, you're exactly right. It is a very challenging time for all of us. And Mike, I'm in the same boat. I'm a seeker. I pay my bills by going to events where there's lots of people.
You're right. You can't go now either, right? They're canceling everything.
Yeah, exactly. I've had several events that they've at least had to put it on pause, and hopefully it'll happen later in the year. But I understand, and so I did speak to a group a few weeks ago, and basically the medical challenge that we're facing right now is I was recently diagnosed with prostate cancer, and it was a real shell shock at first, but already we love our doctor. We're getting great care at NYU and New York University. And we are also, so working with an oncologist, but also a naturopathic doctor. And so really revamp my whole exercise regimen. I meditate every day. I talk about what I'm thankful for and my gratitude. And my diet is not extreme, but it's a great diet. No alcohol, no soda, no sugar, all that. And so while in the first few days of diagnosis, my wife and I were, of course, quite upset, but I feel like I'm doing fantastic. And this is what I want to talk to people about right now who are really overwhelmed. They watch the news and they're not sure what's going to happen. Yeah, we can't control that, but we can control what's going on in our head. We can control how we spend our time, and we can control our outlook. And I'm taking advantage of my situation, thinking I'm going to be so much stronger when I get through this, and I will get through this, just like we all will with what we're dealing with right now. And I'm making sure to be a positive role model and to look for others for support because I think it's okay to ask for help. That's a sign of strength, not weakness. And I think if we all let our ego down a little bit and ask for help when we need it, and also look for opportunities to help each other, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I think we've been much better for that.
What do you feel like from an overcoming adversity objective? What is the number one, if there is a number one area where you feel in the business sector, entrepreneur sector, that you've noticed as being common, an adversity that people feel like, I can't get over this?
I think people are very worried about their competition all the time. I think even if it's not direct, and they kind of are consumed with that. I had some friends who went through something recently, didn't win a competition, and were really down the dumps around it because other people did do better. And what I've been telling them and telling others is, don't worry about other people so much. Yes, competition's there. We're a capitalistic society. Competition's always going to be there. But focus on what you're good at. Figure out your lane and be really good at it. I don't think you only can do one thing. I think you can do several things. But focus on yourself and come from a place of positivity and abundance, not negativity and just wishing bad things on your competition, because that's not going to do anything for you.
What's happening, Life Nation? Michael Levis here. This is a time to do the right thing, not the profitable thing. I'm giving away COVID-19 business strategy sessions for free. I promise to give you my honest advice and coach you on a strategy that I feel would be best for the longevity of your business. I'm not asking you for your money, but in the interest of being able to help as many people as I can, I am asking you to be ready with your 1 to 2 specific questions so we can jump right into it. Go to michaellevis.com/coaching and simply schedule a call on my calendar. That's michaellevis.com/coaching. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think that if you're listening and if you're obsessed with the competition, you know it. You're listening to this right now, and this person knows, like, shit, this is exactly me, right? And I've been there maybe in the past when I first started my first nationwide my travel company right now. But on the other end, I think I learned on the other companies where it honestly just wasn't worth the mental bandwidth, really, because again, we go back to what you can control and what you can't. You can't control what they do. It's now there's okay to take a look at competition, of course, and see what they're doing. Yep. And if it's working, let's make it better. What's our pivot point on that advertisement or on that ad or on that angle that they're doing from business perspective? Sure, that's just business. That's not being crazy about your competition. That's just being smart. Now, strategizing around it. But if you're worried about, oh my God, this person's made it, or this person's done it and they did it before me and faster in my own industry, and then you're looking down on it as a negative deal, right? And so making sure that keeping the positive mindset and realizing that, I think for me as an entrepreneur, to give some advice based off what you just said as well, is just making sure people are enjoying the journey rather than the outcome, right? Yeah. Enjoy the journey, because if you don't, the outcome is just, it's going to get further and further away and higher on top of that hill.
No, you're right. And entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. It's not like, oh, I want to take it easy, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. It's hard. We're working all the time. We have to make things happen. We live and die by, as I say, by what we eat and kill, or kill and eat. And so why make it harder on yourself? Why, as you mentioned, bandwidth, why focus on things we cannot control? Let's just do a really good job. And if someone else gets there a little bit quicker, great. That means there's a market for that product. Let's do a better one and eat it all up.
That's great. I love to say, yeah, you're right. If someone got there quicker, realize that, cool, there's a market for it. There's some positives to all this stuff. You're absolutely right. I love the optimism there. Thanks, man. What are you excited about right now within your business?
As a speaker, I've recently started using Google AdWords a lot more than I ever did before. And I know this is a very tactical answer to your question, but I like the results I'm getting. I used to think I could do it myself, and so I try to teach myself and learn it, but it's not easy. And as an entrepreneur, I should be outsourcing as much as I can. I should pay for it and have an expert do it, just like someone should bring me in as an expert. And so I've done that now. I'm working with a group called Funnel Science, and they're really making things happen for me. I'm getting more engagement. So I'm really glad to see that working with experts on Google AdWords makes a difference in my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think that's a good message for others out there, that if you just mentioned earlier, you stay in your lane. Well, if you were doing your own ads, you're not staying in your lane, right?
Not at all.
And that's kind of where I think that message we continue to push, where you can be, everything to fewer people versus nothing to everyone. And that's kind of important to niche down. You don't speak to everybody. You speak to a niche. You have a demographic, right? And then also on the back end of your business, listeners, remember what we're saying here is that you also shouldn't try to be doing everything for yourself, because there's people out there that just are better than you at it, right? And that's okay, right? So whether it's creating a P&L or a spreadsheet and you don't like to do it, find someone to do it for you. Whether it's if it's a monthly thing, come up with the monthly process for that, what you need. But in reality, the goal is to focus to be best at what you do versus mediocre at many things.
Yeah, and you can be creative about it. I started working on a third book, and it's going to be a motivational book called 7 Reasons You Can Overcome Any Adversity in Life. And I've interviewed 7 other wounded warriors from Vietnam to today who've gone on to do great things, to talk about just their injury, what they went through, but how they were able to push past it in a way that everyone can understand and apply their own lives and what they're doing today. And I think each chapter will motivate people around our country. But so I interviewed them over a voice recorder, but then what? So I found someone on Fiverr who will then translate that for me. It doesn't cost very much, send it back. Now half the work is done. I've interviewed them, asked them all the questions. I have the text written. Now I can cut and paste and modify and edit as I want, but it's taken so much of the workload off my plate. And I think we can all find ways to do that on whatever we're working on.
Absolutely. Let's start finding out, guys, here. The message is, how can you do more by doing less, right? Yeah. And there's such a possibility, like you mentioned there, by Fiverr, Fiverr.com. People will do some of this stuff for as low as $5 or as much as thousands. Yeah. But, you can find the people, and sometimes you got to find a few or hire a few. We all know that it is what it is. But, just if you're thinking about outsourcing, my advice is start with the outcome and the result that you want, and reverse engineer how you would do it, and then just give them that information. That way they can baby step their way into it, and being able to kind of outsource is definitely the way to move up and scale. Of course, if not, you're going to end up pulling your hair out, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So how are you currently Or how have you felt that you've been able to build the life that you want to live?
Yeah, I've really focused on that. And I appreciate that question because as entrepreneurs, I never worked harder than when I do as an entrepreneur.
For yourself, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to make it happen. So, in the last couple of years, I've thought a lot about this, and really now, especially with my diagnosis, I want to make sure I'm doing everything right. And so, I focus on a few things. Work, of course, is at the top of the list, but so is a very healthy relationship with my wife. So is exercise, and so is mental health, and time for friends and hobbies. So all those are always on on the playing field, things that I'm juggling in a healthy way. On Sundays, I sit down with my wife, we plan our week, we have a check-in, we make sure our calendars are synced up, because I think it's very important to have great communication with those who are important to you. But, we're not here on this earth for a very long time. I was extremely fortunate, maybe blessed, to survive a gunshot wound to the head in Iraq, and I'll never forget that. And now I'm in a similar situation. So I don't want to be a pinball bouncing around, letting others direct where I'm going. I want to live a purposeful life and accomplish my goals. So that means, you talk about reverse engineering. Well, that means identifying my goals and how I'm going to get there. Goals for work, goals for playtime, goals for vacation, goals for my golf game, whatever it is. And so
Yep.
I focus on these things because they're all important, but I've taken the time to identify what's important and what I want to do well at.
Well, good. I think I've been able to do all those except the golf game one. Man, I suck. But that's okay. Probably because I just don't play enough. But yeah, it's not easy. It's a game of finesse, and I don't have much of that. I want to kill that ball every time.
That's
so,
right.
out of all your successes and failures, what is the one piece of parting advice that you'd give to aspiring entrepreneurs and current entrepreneurs out there listening today?
Great. Yeah, I would think. And I've had a few, but the one is, and this is something I talk about a lot, is don't be afraid to ask for help and to lean on others for support. I already mentioned that, but it's critical as an entrepreneur. Just because you're running your own business doesn't mean you do everything on your own. And there are associations you can join. There are local groups. There are mastermind groups. There are LinkedIn. There's lots of platforms you can join and learn from others, because I read a lot, books, and listen to podcasts. So ask for others and be a constant learner. Maybe you don't want to read a book, but you can listen to a podcast, read a white paper, things like that. Go to a conference, but have an open mind towards everything. And really, help is key. People want to help entrepreneurs. People know that entrepreneurship is something cool, and a lot of people who aren't entrepreneurs wish they were entrepreneurs at one point in their lives. So don't be afraid to ask for help. People want to help. You just have to be very clear on what you're looking for.
Yeah, no, I think that's very important. I think that's what are we doing here, right, Justin? I'm not paying you. You're not paying me.
Right.
We're helping people by sharing your story and why it is that you do what you do. Business and life is about realizing that there's two of them, and we know at the end of the day, in the game of business and life always wins, because it's and we want to make sure that we remind people of that, but also that it's tough. It's a tough business. Is it for everyone? No, I don't think so. If it wasn't, I think everybody would be doing it. And then I don't know how that economy would work. So when it comes to what we're doing here for everybody, by the way, listeners just listening, is that we're just trying to help everybody out, hear the vision, hear the stories, hear the messages, and making sure that you understand from that takeaway there that Justin just dropped a great knowledge bomb us. People want to help. Find a mentor. Find someone out there that, either it's LinkedIn, someone that's doing what you're doing, and mimic it. Right? Mimic what they're doing. Ask them if they can help you that might be wanting to do exactly what they're doing, and do it. Right? I get that often, and I do what I possibly can to help whoever I possibly can. But at the end of the day, that is a very great statement, and I appreciate that. Where can people find you?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. The best place is my website, which is just my name, justinconstantine.com. I'm also very active on LinkedIn at Justin Constantine there as well.
Awesome. Justin, thank you so much for your time today and all the knowledge you dropped on our listeners.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Life Nation, you've got to remember that in order for things to change, you must change. And in order for things to get better, you must get better. You just got better by hanging out with me, Michael Liebus, and the Business and Life Nation. So come back tomorrow, because I'm here dropping sound bombs 7 days a week, baby. If you'd like to subscribe, please do, so you can take action and execute. See you tomorrow.